Yay! She's in. Good evening, Doc.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
Very well. And you?
I'm fine, thank you.
It's good to see your face again. It's been a while I saw your face.
Oh, good to see you too.
Yeah. How is work at your end?
Going on well,
Stress,
thank you.
much pressure?
Well, we're coping.
Yeah, we have to. So it's good to have you here. I know you're a very busy person, so I wouldn't want to keep you waiting for so long. So we'll just get started.
Right.
People who join us later on would either watch this on YouTube or on the page right here. So today we'll be discussing bullying in the workplace. I know that the subject of bullying is something that is not so much talked about, especially in a place like ours. And I've heard people talk about things like that, some actions that they make seem like is your boss, and all that, whereas the person is actually bullying, and some that could even be colleague to colleague or peer to peer.
Yeah.
So I want to, as a way of starting, what actions can one classify under bullying? What should happen for you to say this person is bullying, especially in the context of the workplace?
All right. Well, I think a good place to start would be to discuss exactly what bullying is so that people get an idea of what it is. So that we're not just, talking around the issue, but not talking about the issue. And in a study by Ayodeji and Mabayo, they actually identified bullying as an undiagnosed social problem. So it's there, it's around us, but a lot of us don't know that it's there. And of course, bullying is a persistent pattern. So it is repetitive, and there's now a pattern in which there is maltreatment that is harmful and targeted at an individual. More specifically, because we're talking about workplace bullying today,
Yeah,
workplace bullying occurs at the workplace. And then it might be
yeah,
spiteful, it might be offensive, it might be mocking or intimidating. And the target may be
yeah.
one person or more than one person.
Mm.
Interestingly, the culture around here is likely to promote bullying, especially because, we're quite high up on, oh, good morning, ma, good morning, sir. Who is your guy here? Who is the junior worker? Who is so people use their influence and superiority to harass their subordinates and peers. They go as far as, screaming and banging at subordinates just to get things done. So what activities can be classified as bullying? And I would say to you that in the workplace bullying study that was done by the Workplace Bullying Institute, things as little as being falsely accused of an error that you actually did not, then sometimes showing hostility towards someone is a form of bullying. Using
Wow,
silent treatment towards someone can be a form of bullying. And then
wow.
even making up rules, saying, oh, didn't you realize that these rules had always been, these were the rules that, meanwhile there's nothing to show that those rules were there. As
Mm.
long as it targets one person or a group of person, of course there's much more. Starting rumors or gossip about an individual, you know singling out and isolating one individual from other co-workers, either socially or physically, sometimes being yelled at, being screamed at, throwing tantrums at an individual. And interestingly, you know how in this environment, sometimes people take credit for work not even done by them. Even that, or lying about another person's performance in an evaluation process, or using confidential information. So, for instance, I remember there was a case of a client that I once saw who, somebody found out that she was being treated for a mental illness and then used that to score points against her at work. She not only used it to score points against her at work, she actually lost her job because of what that individual did to her. So, using confidential information about an individual against them can be bullying. And then, of course, making verbal insults based on their gender, their age, their race, their disability is also a form of bullying. So there are over, 25 items that were listed as being forms of bullying. But these are some of the ones that have gone on for so long around here that, you know, quite a lot of people, and that's what I often like to say, that until you are able to know what constitutes abuse or connotes abuse, you may not even know that you are being abused. So quite a lot of people go through this on a daily basis and don't even know that this is bullying at the workplace.
Thank you so much, Doc. One vital thing that you said is until you know what abuse is,
Yes.
you won't even know they are being abused. That means until you know what bullying is,
Yes.
you won't even know that you are being bullied. And so some will try to put you, twist you to make you think that they are, they are your senior, you know, sort of. And that brings me to the next question: how do I identify that my boss is bullying me?
Okay. Well, so, you know, aside from some of the examples that I already gave, you'd find that people who bully at the workplace most times are people in superior authority to the individual. Now, it doesn't mean that peer to peer, like you mentioned when you started, people on your own level can bully you, or even subordinates can bully you as well. So it goes from different places, but the one by the boss is more likely to happen, especially because your boss has a form of authority over you. And if they are seen to exert it in ways that are more distressing rather than adding value to you, then of course you know that you're being bullied. So for instance, if you are the target of practical jokes at the workplace, or if your boss if your boss misleads you about certain work duties, like giving you incorrect deadlines or unclear directions, you understand what I mean?
Yes.
That's a form of bullying. Then continued denial of requests for time off, and you actually do want to take the time off, it's a form of bullying as well. Sometimes it's threats, sometimes it's humiliation, sometimes it's other verbal abuse, or excessive performance monitoring. A colleague once said to me about, you know, how a few years ago, someone will make her collect patients over and over and over again, not telling her what to do, not correcting her on how exactly to do it, but just telling her that, oh, it's not good enough, go and do it again, go and do it again. So that can, of course, be a form of bullying. And then sometimes it's just unjust criticism, just criticizing what the individual has done as not good enough when you haven't even looked at it or shown them how exactly it is to get that job done. So these are some of the, you know, ways that people can intimidate or bully people at the workplace. And, you know, these are some of the examples that a senior colleague or a superior colleague can actually use to bully one at the workplace.
So is it possible that, so because my boss doesn't want to come across like as a bully, doesn't want to come across as a bully, and then gives me excess task for me to do, is at what point should I be able to deduce that this person is just looking for a way to take advantage of me or subdue me or something? But because the person doesn't want to clamp on me in a way that is so obvious, but then gives me lots of work to do. How do I handle such a situation? How do I ever identify that this is not proper?
All right. Well, so interestingly, you know, like we said, bullying can target one person or it can target a group of people. So for all you know, everybody in an organization may actually be bullied by the boss and they don't know. However, yes, so bullying can also target, so the bully can be the boss. The bully can be a subordinate. The bully can be someone on your level. However, how do you then know that this has passed, be careful, to be bullied? It's when you start to see certain factors around it. So number one, it is repetitive. It occurs regularly. Two, it's not realistic. So for instance, they give you work that should have lasted for 2 weeks and they're telling you that by the end of the close of business today, they want a report on that work. Then the duration is enduring. It's not just once, it continues daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, every day in and every day out. And then over time, you notice that it continues to escalate. It continues to escalate over time. So they may start with, 2 briefs, finish these 2 briefs in 1 hour. After a while, they can give you 5 briefs in 1 hour. unrealistic target, then of course the intent behind it, which unfortunately you may not be able to know about what the intent is, but the regularity, the intensity, the frequency, and the fact that it is increasing in aggression. You understand? So for instance, it may be to even push you to show some form of action that ordinarily you wouldn't have done, slowly inciting you to anger. These are some of the characteristics that make it, that make bullying a common problem at the workplace.
So it's possible that, so that means I need to be able to sense that this thing is not normal.
Yeah.
In terms of the frequency.
Yes.
In terms of me being picked upon.
Yes.
It also mean that because I feel like in some workplaces, people don't even know what the work ethics are. So they just come in and whatever is being given to them is what they do. So it's even difficult for them to even decipher the task that is being given to them is being excessive, or the timelines are not realistic. Sometimes people just take and they break that at some point, right? So I mean, I'm wondering for someone who is a junior staff in an organization and everything is being dumped at my desk, do this. I'm still working on that. Here they bring another. I'm working on that. Here they bring another. I hope I don't fall victim of thinking that my boss is picking on me.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the tendency is, I don't know. Can you help us? How do we draw that line from understanding? Look, this is not about bullying. This is because they are just giving you this task, and also look, this person is actually trying to subdue. Because I see bullying as trying to subdue someone.
Yeah, definitely.
Like a predator-prey relationship. Sort of.
Definitely.
So
okay, well, so like you said, it comes in a in where there's a power play, and of course, one person has power, either because they are superior or they're the ones who have the dominant personality. So, for instance, a junior colleague may actually bully somebody who is their superior. So it's about power, but power not just because of position, but power maybe because of your presence or your personality as well. When we started, I'd mentioned that bullying is an undiagnosed social problem. So the truth is, a lot of the organizations that are even around us are actually places where bullying has become a form of organizational culture. It's gone on for so long. It's
so long
ingrained into the fabric of the organization, and everybody now sees it as, well, it's the way things have always been here, and this is the way we'll continue. This is the way we'll continue to do things. A few years ago, I managed a client. She was in the financial industry, and she came because of the bullying she received at the office. The bullying was so intense that it was such that nobody in the office was speaking to her. She had to leave the general office to start working from the library.
Wow.
Yes. Everybody was on a WhatsApp group, and they singled her out of the group. They would go for lunch and not take her, or they'll have meetings, and when they see her coming, they're like, how come you didn't join this meeting? And the young lady is saying, I didn't even know that there was a meeting going on. So in many organizations, it's the organizational culture is what people met on ground, have seen as normal, are not willing to change because, well, everybody has pretty much fitted into what it is. And I think it's largely a continuum of the environments that we're also coming from, the homes that people are born into, the micro societies that we're coming from, even before we now come to the workplace. Because chances are, when you then get to the workplace, if bullying has been a part of your life, where people give you unrealistic expectations from home, people make fun of you, they call you names, people ask you to do certain things without caring whether you are trained to do it, and then even when you request for help, they don't give you help. People leave the room when you're coming in, or when you get into a room, they just stop talking. Unfortunately, a lot of these things happen from homes or even groups where people come from, and because they've seen it as normal.
Doctor,
Yes,
Sometimes
please.
I feel like these things begin in the home and
Yes.
they are transported to the school.
Yeah.
And some people have grown up either being the bully or being the bullied, and then
Exactly.
they take the workplace.
Yes. Yes. So it's really a continuum from
Wow.
life. It doesn't just show up at the workplace, because I don't believe that people just get to the workplace and decide that, oh, I want to be a bully. It's stuff that they've
No.
done all their lives, or it's stuff that, the bullied has been used to, and just easy as well. We will manage it like that. This is how things have always been. This is how I've seen things at home, at my school, and nothing I do or say can help. And people just fit into that character of saying, well, you manage it or you take a walk from the workplace.
Okay, I have just two more questions for you. Is there a way, should I be able to report bullying in the workplace? I mean, yes, there might be levels of authority and the likes, but I mean, how do I file this case such that it doesn't put me in harm's way? I'm not publicly, how do I put it now? How am I able to report it such that I don't put myself on the spot?
All right. Well, so, I think that many times when people are bullied, like I said, you need to even know what it looks like before you can recognize it. When you do recognize it, then you also need to be in a stable mental state to even want to take action about it. So the young
True.
lady that I was seeing at the time, I had to ask her one time, do you want me to come to your office to speak to the people there? Because it was obvious that she wasn't willing to do anything about it. Unfortunately, she had then become psychotic. She had started to have unusual experiences of, hearing voices of unseen people, having strange thoughts, having paranoid thoughts. And it stemmed largely because of the pressures that she was going through at the workplace. So, first off, do you even know what bullying looks like? When you do know what bullying looks like, do you even feel empowered enough to want to talk about it? Because very often, when people bully other people, it's to make them powerless and unable to do anything to stop it. When you open your mouth and you say, oh, I'm going to report this, or I'm going to say something about it, the next thing the bully says, because, well, the bully is used to this, he's been doing it all his life, or his or her life, is people won't believe you. So, for instance, if it is your manager who is then bullying you, you're wondering, who am I to tell? But what people should do when they're being bullied is that remember that it is never your fault, regardless of what triggered it. Even if someone bullies you, making you feel like you can't do your job, it is about power and control. Maybe not of a superior person. It might even be a junior person. It's not about your skills or your work ability. It's just about the person's, need to gratify themselves by putting other people down. So for them, it's about power and control. But when you feel like you're being bullied, there's certain things that you should do. You can document the action. Keep track of everything that you have seen and you want to report as a case of bullying. Of course, quite a number of times too, people look at gaps in the sense that he didn't come to work early yesterday. Let me pick on him. So that's sometimes what the bully does. The bullies also are looking for praise, and they know how to get their praise. They look for people who are likely not to be able to stand up to themselves, who appear to, lack confidence or lack, weaklings, people who may appear like weaklings. So it's important that you document it, note the date, the time, where the bullying took place, and other people who were in the room. Hopefully, you're not in an organization where everybody else is against you. Sometimes it's important to, because that's dangerous, that's a dangerous place to be. It's also important to save physical evidence. Is it notes? Is it emails? Sometimes you may even want to record conversations, because if it's not documented, then it's not real. It's important that every workplace has designated lines of reporting when it comes to bullying. So that's another thing. The HR department is a good place to start. You can also talk to someone, maybe your supervisor, especially if you're being bullied by someone at your own level. You can confront the bully. But when you're going to confront the bully, don't go by yourself. Go with another colleague of yours who you trust, or with a supervisor, and ask them, identify what it is that they're doing, and ask them to please stop it. Like I said, you expect that most organizations will have policies against bullying. And as such, you hope that it is found in their employee handbook. If there is, you can also, look at what the employee guidelines say about bullying. And if all of this don't seem to work, you may want to seek legal guidance. You can talk to a lawyer. It may not be possible, but a lawyer can give you specific advice. You can also reach out to other people for support. Talk to your loved ones so that it's not like you're imagining things. Because after a while, if you're in a place where everybody seems to be against you, it may look like you're imagining things. But if you tell someone else that you trust and who is loving and supportive and is willing to encourage you, they can help. You can also talk to a therapist. Your therapist will provide professional support and help you explore ways to cope with the bullying while you take other forms of action. But by all means, it's important to report the bullying. An interesting thing that has been designed is the Employee Assistance Program, the EAP, which is slowly gaining a bit of momentum around this part of the world. If the organization you work for has an Employee Assistance Program, popularly known as the EAP, you can also look into it. The EAP is a confidential program provided by the employers for the employees to let them seek support whenever they have issues regarding their health, finances, or even legal issues that they're battling. So the EAP usually has resources to support you whenever you're going through issues such as sexual assault at the workplace or even workplace bullying. So there's actually, quite a lot that you can do to support yourself if you feel like you are being bullied.
Wow. You have even answered the next question I would have asked you in terms of legal actions that one can take. But let me still, is it possible for me to report a case of bullying in the workplace to a legal practitioner? If I do, what are the likely consequences that would arise from that action?
Well, so it is possible. It's possible because, lawyers are there to support you. And there's a national industrial court in the country. There are labor laws that empower you at the workplace and, of course, encourage you to seek redress if you feel like you're not being treated right at your workplace.
But in short, private organizations do not respect labor laws. In fact, there are private organizations who don't pay pensions. There are private organizations who care about your emotional health. So, I mean, these organizations don't even have a handbook. There are some that don't have a handbook to even stipulate how to handle certain things. So if I work in that kind of organization, I mean, if by the time the National Industrial Court even summons them, some of them will even call the bluff. I mean, so the way it is in this part of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, so I want to help us look at it in that angle of I am working in a place that doesn't even pay respect to labor laws. They only respect public days and all that, but they don't even care about other things. And I'm in this place and someone is taking advantage of me, maybe because of my stature, my physique and all that, bullying me with work and all that. What can I do?
Well, I mean, it's unfortunate that we're having to have this conversation from a place of abnormality to a place of normality. You would assume that, every organization would have certain things. But I believe that no organization is above the law of any land. No organization should be above the law of any land. And that's why I would say to you that even if the organization does not pay pension, they don't even pay salaries regularly, as long as you have a contract with them, which is why when you take up, jobs with certain organizations, you must read what your letter says. You must be detailed enough, not just assume that, it's a workplace, they pay me salary and that's where it ends. No, read the fine lines of the contract that you're getting into. For instance, some people work in places where they would sign that they can't take leave in 1 year. How can I work every day for 1 year and not take leave? I won't sign that kind of contract.
You don't have to beg for the leave.
Yeah, I even have to beg for the leave. So I think that people, irrespective of where you work, as long as they have a structure, they have a name, they are registered, whatever it is that happens, the law of the land should always prevail, which is why even if you want to report bullying, don't report with just this happened to me. Have some documented evidence about what exactly the case that you're trying to report is. So it sounds believable. It appears very, very solid. And whatever it is that you say will be given the attention that it very much deserves. Like I said again, it's unfortunate that we're coming at the conversation from a place of abnormality rather than a place of what should be normal and what, should be what goes on regularly. A few weeks ago, a colleague of mine was saying to me that, she worked in a big federal establishment and she wasn't even sure they had anything about sexual assault. But, one of our senior colleagues then said to her that, no, there's actually a handbook and it says certain things about sexual assault. Whether when you report, something will then be done about it is a different matter. But at least there's an employee book. And the employee book has certain things that should be done when sexual issues happen. So while you may not own the organization and you cannot determine what the structure is, like I said, read the fine lines when you're trying to get into any form of contract so that you're not selling your soul away. And I believe get good evidence. When you have good evidence, you can present your case. At the end of the day, get a good lawyer and go hard. Especially when you have, when you're backed with very good evidence, go hard. But at the same time, don't be caught napping. Make sure that you cleared your own end. It's not like you actually did not come to work and, it was as if everybody cooked up something against you. Make sure you give your best every time so that at no point would you be found wanting when any case is brought up against you. And of course, please go with your evidence in hand.
I agree with you perfectly. This is a call to every employer to have an handbook and create rules that people can report cases, and they can really get fair hearing and fair job. And it's also a call to the employee as well. Ensure that it's your own end of the bargain. Don't be a perpetual
Exactly.
When they make decisions or take decisions, you think that they are haunting you. And as well as much as possible, have your evidences when things are going wrong. So that in the case that there is need for a form of legislation or something or legal proceedings, you will not be found wanting to ask for evidence and you're just having word of mouth. I mean, word of mouth is not enough an evidence. And so I hope that people can take this back to their workplaces and have this conversation. I feel strongly that human resource practice has so much to do in the workplace if they put things together, because this is something that the human resource angle of organizations have to pay attention to. These things are happening. That not reporting doesn't mean that they are not happening. Right? If you have one or two employees and they tell you their real story, realize that one person feels, and the fact that one person feels bullied, even if it's not true, does not mean that their feeling is wrong, right? It just means that things are done the way they shouldn't be done. So please let us pay attention to how people are being treated in the workplace, such that when they leave, they can still think well of the organization and not wrong about it. Doctor, final word for our viewers and listeners.
Well, I mean, what I would say is what I said initially. It's an undiagnosed social problem. It's been with us and is likely, it's been perpetuated over the years by the same attributes that we have at home. People are used to it. People have it ingrained in them, and people are likely to give what it is that they have. When they then get to the workplace, management philosophies, the bureaucratic processes are the things that have continually allowed for perpetuating bullying at the workplace. And to be able to tackle this problem, the power constructs within the workplace need to be challenged. You understand what I mean? They need to be challenged. We need to challenge the status quo. It's gone on for too long. I mean, when you were talking, I'm just thinking, why don't we even do a study on workplace bullying? And if people even understand the channels of reporting, you'd be surprised that people, they don't even know if this happens to me at the workplace, who should I talk to? Who should I speak to? Who shouldn't I talk to? Should I just keep quiet and not do anything about it? Will I be singled out or sent away? Which is why I said a lot of organizations have it in their culture. They make it sound like hard work, so that if you're not doing well at the workplace, they say that you are lazy. But I think a study will not be a bad idea. I mean, even in this 2020, where half the people are working from home, a study on workplace bullying to find out what the impacts are, and beyond the impacts, to find out if people even understand, what the channels of reporting are extremely important in this day and time. So people also need to be educated. What is workplace bullying? What connotes workplace bullying? Do people even know? The whole respect thing. I mean, good morning, sir. Good morning, ma. If you don't call me ma or sir, don't speak to me. Don't come into my office. Those are the things. Yeah, those are the things that have perpetuated it for too long. Abroad, or at least in companies that are in Nigeria, international companies that are in Nigeria, you can call people by their first name, and it does not mean that you don't respect them. Respect is, it's...
They haven't come in Nigeria, yeah. I mean,
yes.
The first place I worked, even the CEO is called by his name. And then I moved to another company, and I realized that they had this culture thinking that you either put Mr. or you put Mrs. And if you don't put the sir or the ma, they will call you back. Like, lack respect. Like,
interestingly, you even have some organizations where they will expect you to call somebody mommy or daddy, and they are workplace organizations. I think, like I said, people even need to know what bullying looks like to be able to identify whether they're being bullied or not. A lot of people on a regular basis are facing bullying. They're coping with bullying. They're breaking down because of bullying, and they don't know it. It has physical and mental health effects. One of the major mental health effects is anxiety. The worry and anxiety of even going to work, dreading work, being overly stressed because of the workplace. And there's an increased risk for depression and even suicide. When you are constantly bullied, you're likely to have a low self-esteem, start to doubt yourself and your abilities. And like I said, sometimes you may start to wonder if you're actually imagining that you're being bullied. So sometimes you start to question yourself because of all of this. What I would say is people need education. People need information to understand what workplace bullying looks like, what it sounds like, if you can taste it, what it looks like with all your senses. You should be able to figure out what workplace bullying looks like. It's when we know what it looks like, then we can then start to challenge the status quo as individuals, as organizations, before we then start talking about what the government, at the end of the day, should do for the organization.
Doc, we need to expand this conversation. I'm seeing some comments here. Someone said that things happen even in the so-called multinationals, but they do their own code because they are multinationals.
Yes.
I feel like the multinationals might even be worse, especially if they have expatriates who try to bring in this color thing, right? They present themselves like expatriates, and the rest of you who are Nigerians or who are black colored will be treated like you are nobody because the organization allows to exist. I mean, I was not going to ask you any question again, but this just dawned on this can truly happen because
definitely.
And I'm very particular. In Nigeria, we celebrate foreigners at the workplace much more than we celebrate our own people. I worked in a company, and there was a Nigerian who had worked in that company for so long, who had gone to Lagos Business School, and you naturally expect that this person should take up the next role in that particular department. And in the twinkle of an eye, they brought in another person who didn't even have the years of experience or the qualification, and they expected us to treat this person like a breakable piece, and it can be emotionally and mentally draining.
Definitely.
And then before you say, you feel like this guy is whitey, you need to treat him. I don't know. I don't know if I know that some people would watch this, or they're probably watching this, and this is happening in their workplace. They're putting in
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
and I mean, when I was to leave, and someone had to discuss with me why I should not leave, I said, look, I have been here for 4 years, and you'll be here, and they'll bring a foreigner to be your boss, not because you're not qualified, but because they just feel that this foreigner should know better. Yet you be the one to train this foreigner that is being brought. I don't know. Is there a way? Is there a way the workplace can correct this notion or this practice where they make, because I feel that's a form of bullying as well. I
Yeah.
mean, because if you look at credentials, probably this black person or this Nigerian has the qualification.
Yes.
Is there that the HR, is there something that people need to pay attention to when they are making these decisions so that it don't affect, it doesn't have impact on people that are already working in that particular organization? This is the final question, I promise.
Well, I mean, well, thank you for the question. What I would say is, it's ingrained already. It's been with us for so long. You know how one day I stepped into an elevator and somebody else came in and he saw a white man and he was like, these guys are our Oga. It's
Imagine.
something that people have unconsciously put into their psyche, that the person with a fair colored skin is better than them. Unfortunately, the organizational culture, I mentioned that earlier, has also allowed it to grow for so long that, well, after a while, people who can't question the status quo just sit down there and are okay with it. But people like you who question the status quo and are wondering why this is going on, definitely not because it is career progression for them. There are people who are qualified here to do the job, but they would rather bring someone else. It's a big problem. It's bigger than individuals. It's a problem that until we're ready to face it, I mean, so now we're talking about multinationals. Even Nigerian organizations have so much going on that we haven't even solved before we now start talking about, multinational organizations. If people don't see it as a problem, I mean, see what that guy said in the Leafs that day. He believes that the white man is a natural leader for him. Whether he doesn't even have a university or a secondary school degree, it doesn't really matter. It's being judged by the color of his skin. Unfortunately, that has been allowed to go on for so long. And then you have people having to try to keep, proving themselves at the workplace just so that they can get, support and a bit of, promote me, I've been here for 10 years. Meanwhile, other times, people who don't even have half the experience that you have come in as well. It's a big problem. And like I said, it's been on for so long. It's been on for so long. It's been with us for so long. It's unlikely to change overnight until people realize what bullying is, and until we as an environment also decide, and as a people decide that it's unhealthy, we don't like it, it's affecting us, it's affecting our health, and that it definitely should stop. So until we see that it is wrong, but also are able to recognize what it looks like. I'll keep saying this, recognize what it looks like, because there are a couple of things that are going on as abuse, and people are in abusive relationships, they don't even know. People are in abusive workplaces, they don't even know. I mean, at my own workplace, I say to people, my name, I introduce myself to my patients, but my first name, my name is Bonju. It's somebody else that will say, oh, she's the medical director, oh, she's a consultant psychiatrist. I'm an individual at first, before I start taking on any titles. It's about being able to, and a lot of times too, we should also talk about where bullying may come from, because it may be learned. It may also come because an individual feels incapable of themselves. And of course, to find a balance, they want to take out that anger on someone else. So these are so many of the things that we need to, start to deconstruct. We need to start to talk about. If people don't realize that they have issues and they're acting out because of some of these things, we're likely to continue to have this, cycle of bullying. And of course, with bullying, we break down people, we break down their spirits, and there's definitely no way that they can do their best when they come to the workplace.
Doctor, I guarantee that we have this conversation again. I'm going to call on you again. This time around, I'm going to bring HR professionals as well, so that we dive deep into this subject of bullying, having a mental health professional and HR professional, because these two people need to work hand in hand, you know, because
Yeah.
sometimes even the HR may not even know how to handle this thing. They may not
Definitely.
even know what bullying. We're going to have this
Yes.
conversation again for everyone that has joined us. Thank you, Doctor, for coming. I believe that this
Thank
has
you.
been a very cool and educative one for everybody that has attended. We'll definitely call on you again. And this time around, it's going to be a multi-stakeholder conversation, probably something that would happen on Zoom or something. But
All
we're
right.
going to deal with it because I believe that a number of issues that happen in the workplace begin from how people feel in the workplace, the toxic workplace, how they
Yeah.
are being, how they are being perceived. So I believe strongly that we need to have this conversation. And you have spawned me, and I'm going to work on that, and I'll get back to you. Definitely have this conversation. Thank you once
Okay.
again for coming. So
Thank you for
grateful.
having me.
This is going to be available on the YouTube channel, so you can have people watch it afterwards. By tomorrow morning or later tonight, it's going to be up. Thank you everyone for joining. I'll see you next week again when we have another guest on this show. Until then, be your very best. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.